My name is Olivia Carter, and I'm 28 years old. This past Mother's Day, my mother sent me an email with an attached invoice totaling $312,000. The subject line read, "The cost of raising failure." And she copied every relative. We have 48 people. From Seattle to Miami. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying with a single file. She expected me to cry. Maybe apologize. She expected me to perform the role I'd always played, the quiet disappointment who absorbs humiliation without protest. Instead, I hit send and went back to my coffee. By the next morning, 47 family members had blocked her. The 48th didn't block her at all. Grandma Ruth did something far worse. When people ask what triggered it, I tell them the truth began with that invoice. My mother believed numbers could measure worth, that a lifetime of emotional debt could be itemized like groceries, diapers, braces, tuition, all turned into proof that I owed her gratitude. But numbers don't lie, people do. And she had no idea how long I'd been keeping my own records. I remember thinking, if love has a price tag, then justice does too. So when she pressed send on her public humiliation, I decided to balance the account. What I attached to that reply wasn't anger, it was arithmetic. By the next sunrise, the Carter family name would mean something different. And this time, the debt wouldn't be mine. I work as a loan officer at a small bank in Austin, where numbers are the only language people can't twist. My days are filled with mortgage forms and credit reports. And I like it that way, predictable, factual, safe. When Evan once asked why I never talk about my family, I told him, because statistics don't scream at you for existing. He laughed, thinking I was joking, but I wasn't. My mother, Mariana, built a business called Marianne's Moments, an event company obsessed with glitter and perception. Reputation is everything, she used to say, smiling like it was a sermon. My father, David, was quieter, the kind of man who fixed things that weren't his fault. My sister, Rachel, 3 years older, was her mirror perfect, charming, the one who could do no wrong. At every family gathering, the script never changed. Marianne would toast Rachel's promotions, then look at me and say, maybe one day you'll find something you're passionate about too. I'd answer, I already did, earning my own paycheck. She'd smile thinly and whisper, that's not passion, Olivia, that's survival. Even Grandma Ruth's sighs couldn't soften the sting. I learned early that silence was the only currency accepted in our house. If you stayed quiet long enough, the storm passed, and the table resumed its laughter. But silence collects interest. Every word I didn't say, every insult I swallowed, became a number in the balance sheet I kept in my head. And this Mother's Day, it was time to settle the account. Mother's Day at Grandma Ruth's house was supposed to be peaceful, the kind of afternoon where everyone pretends history never happened. Marianne stood at the head of the table, her voice bright with performance as she tapped her glass and said, I want to share something special this year, a reflection of what motherhood really costs. Phones buzzed in unison, and Rachel laughed until she opened the email. Mom, you didn't, she whispered. But Marianne's smile sharpened. Of course I did. They should all know the price of gratitude. 2. The subject line read, The Cost of Raising Failure. Below it was a spreadsheet that broke my life into transactions: birth $9,800, braces $4,500, tuition $68,000, totaled neatly at $312,000. My aunts murmured. Someone said it was just a joke. And Marianne lifted her glass. Some debts can never be repaid, she said, looking directly at me. I answered, Then you'll appreciate that I'm good with numbers. She frowned. Don't be dramatic. Olivia. I smiled. I'm not. I'm just balancing accounts. Ah. No one spoke after that. Even Grandma Ruth's fork froze midair. I sat back, the taste of metal in my mouth, thinking how silence once protected me. Now it would protect her no longer. That night, I opened the folder I'd buried deep inside my laptop. A folder labeled Proof. It had slept there for 3 years. Untouched, but never forgotten. Evan looked over my shoulder and asked quietly, "What is all this?" I told him. "Insurance. For when my mother finally forgets who she's humiliating." He frowned. "You've been keeping evidence?" I said. "I've been keeping receipts." Oh. Inside were 3 files. The first was a bank statement from 2015 showing the withdrawal of my education fund, $89,000 transferred from the trust my grandparents created into an account under Marianne Carter's name. The second was a series of tax filings claiming me as her dependent for 6 consecutive years after I'd moved out. The third was a credit report filled with cards opened under my Social Security number. The balance is maxed, and the billing address matching Rachel's condo. Evan exhaled slowly. "This isn't family drama." "Liv, this is fraud." I nodded. "Exactly. And she's been cashing in on it." "I get." He asked if I was going to the authorities. I said, "Not yet. She wants an audience more than she wants forgiveness. So I'll give her both." He said, "You don't owe her anything." I replied, "I owe her accuracy." My voice sounded calm. But it wasn't peace, it was precision. When he went to bed, I stayed at the table, lining up the files like pieces of a puzzle she didn't know I'd solved. Every figure, every transfer, every forged signature was a sentence waiting for its courtroom. She'd itemized my life. I'd audited hers. By the time dawn came, I had rewritten the story from ungrateful daughter to unpaid creditor. And the next time she tried to stage her performance, I would be ready with the closing statement. Marianne called for another family dinner 2 weeks later, insisting it was a chance to heal old wounds. Rachel texted Mon. "She's trying to fix her reputation. Just smile through it." I replied, "I will," and meant it differently. When I arrived, the house glowed with the same perfection she worshipped candles, crystal glasses, and guests eager to forget. Marianne's voice rose above the chatter. "Family is about forgiveness," she announced, her tone polished for an audience. Uncle Fred murmured, "About time," while Grandma Ruth said softly, "Forgiveness follows truth." Marianne kept smiling, pretending not to hear. When she raised her glass again, I said, "Before we toast, I have something to share." She froze, her smile stiffening. "Olivia, this isn't the time," I said. "It's the perfect time. You love numbers. And I brought some." Ow," Rachel whispered. "Liv, don't." I looked at her. "You'll want to see this too." Then I connected my phone to the house speakers. "You sent an invoice." "Mom, tonight. I'm sending my audit." Her voice shook. "What are you doing?" I said. "Balancing the books." Grandma Ruth leaned back, folding her hands. "Then let's hear it." Nodded. A chime sounded as the email reached every phone in the room. I told them, "Check your inbox." Subject line reads, "Reconciliation of accounts." Marianne whispered, "Stop this right now." I said, "You taught me not to interrupt someone presenting their work." Silence filled the room, heavy and complete. The air felt like the pause before a verdict. And as screens lit up one by one, I finally understood what justice sounded like. It wasn't applause. It was 48 notifications arriving at once. I told them to open the first attachment. "This one's about education," I said. keeping my tone even. Grandma Ruth and Grandpa built 2 college funds. One for Rachel and one for me. Equal amounts $89,000 each. Rachel's account paid her tuition in full. Mine disappeared a month before I started at UT Austin. Marianne laughed too quickly. That's absurd. The bank must have made an error, I said. The bank doesn't make withdrawals to Marianne Carter's personal checking account by accident. I was. Rachel whispered. Mom. Is that true? Marianne's smile faltered. That money was for family expenses. She said. You don't understand the sacrifices I made. I looked straight at her. I understand wire transfers, routing numbers, and timestamps. August, Dreard. Liantianling Ishiwu. 9:47 a.m. You moved it yourself, Uncle Fred muttered. $89,000? Grandma Ruth's jaw tightened. That fund was protected. Marianne. It's not, said. Marianne raised her voice. You think I used it for myself? I kept this family running when no one else would. I said. Really? Because a week after that withdrawal, a Lexus SUV was purchased in cash under your business name. She snapped. That vehicle was essential for work. I nodded. Then you drove my education to every wedding you planned. Rachel whispered. Mom. Please say that's not true. Oh. For a moment, no one breathed. The room felt smaller, like the air itself was waiting for her to lie again. Marianne looked at me, her eyes sharp but cornered. You should be thanking me for giving you the life you have, she said. I answered. I paid for my life with loans I'm still repaying. You paid for yours with my future. The words landed like a closing statement. And when silence finally came, it didn't belong to her anymore. It belonged to the evidence. I told them to open the second file. This one's called Dependent, I said. And the room shifted. Marianne straightened. That's not relevant, she snapped. But Grandma Ruth said, if it concerns honesty, it's relevant. I looked around. For 6 years after I moved out, she claimed me as a dependent on her taxes. From age 22 to 28, she used my name, my social security number, and pocketed over $32,000 in credits. I would. Uncle Fred blinked. You mean she was committing fraud? Marianne's voice rose. Don't throw that word around so lightly. Families help each other, I said. Help implies consent. And I didn't give any. Rachel whispered. Mom, please tell me you didn't do that. Marianne turned to her. It was just numbers on a form. Nobody got hurt, I said. My credit score says otherwise. Ozzy. Grandma Ruth's tone hardened. You filed fake returns under your own daughter's identity? Marianne shot back. I did what I had to. Do you think I enjoyed scraping to keep this family afloat? I said. You enjoyed the refunds enough to keep them for 6 years straight. She glared at me. You're twisting it, I replied. No. I'm itemizing it just like you did to me. I was. The sound that followed wasn't shock anymore, it was disbelief curdling into recognition. Uncle Fred muttered. That's a federal offense. Marianne, she said. You all think you're saints. You have no idea what I sacrificed. I looked at her calmly. You didn't sacrifice. You siphoned. My voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. The proof had already spoken. And for the first time, the woman who always needed control found herself audited in front of her own blood. I told them to open the third file. This one's called Identity, I said. Marianne's hand trembled slightly. The first real crack. 3 credit cards opened in my name between 2016 and 2018. Each maxed out. Total balance, $47,000. Rachel blinked. What are you talking about? I said. Every application used my social security number, my address, my birthday. Except the shipping address wasn't mine, it was yours. Rachel. Oh, she whispered. That's impossible, I said. I have delivery confirmations with your signature. Marianne's face drained of color. Stop this. You're twisting everything. I looked at her. Am I twisting the $8,400 engagement ring charged to one of those cards? The one you gave Rachel when Derek proposed? Derek's head snapped toward his wife. You mean this ring? Rachel's voice cracked. Mom said it was a gift. She said you'd never notice. I answered. She was right for a while. I note, Grandma Ruth said quietly. You stole her identity to buy jewelry? Marianne shouted. I was desperate. It was temporary, I said. Temporary doesn't last 4 years. Rachel's tears started to fall. I didn't know it was this bad, she said. I thought it was just one purchase. Marianne turned on her. Don't you dare act innocent. You signed for half those packages. Rachel's voice broke. You told me it was legal. The silence that followed felt colder than any scream. Derek took off the ring and set it on the table. You wore your sister's debt to our wedding, he said. Marianne tried to speak. But no words came. I looked at her one last time. You itemized my childhood like a business expense, I said. So tonight, I'm itemizing your crimes. And as her silence spread through the room, I realized I'd just repossessed my own name. Marianne tried to speak, but her voice cracked. You've humiliated me enough. You think this makes you better than me? I said. No, it makes me honest. She shook her head. Desperate now. You don't understand what I've protected you from. I met her eyes. You mean the truth? For the first time all night. She looked afraid. There are things you don't know, she said. Things that would ruin everything, I said quietly. You mean the thing that made you hate me my entire life? Her lips parted, but no sound came. I opened the final email draft on my phone. You wanted a bill? Mom, let me send the real invoice, Rachel whispered. Olivia. What are you doing? I said. Finishing what she started. Marianne took a step forward. Don't you dare. I pressed send. The chime of incoming messages spread again like a ripple through the room. 48 screens lit up. Grandma Ruth said softly. What is this? I said. It's the message Mom sent to Rachel 3 years ago. Dated July 12. Lanshandling Arsher. It reads, She's not Daniel's biological child. Don't tell him, or I'll lose everything. The room fell into absolute stillness. Daniel's voice came from behind me, low and breaking. Mariana. Is it true? She turned toward him. Trembling. I was 17, she said. It was one mistake. He asked again. Quieter this time. Is it true? Her silence was the only answer he needed. Daniel took off his wedding ring and set it on the table. 28 years, he said. I loved you both every single day. Marianne reached for him, but he stepped back. You lied to me, and you punished her for your lie. He looked at me then, and something steadier returned to his voice. You're still my daughter. That's not negotiable. My throat tightened, but I didn't cry. Marianne sank into her chair, staring at nothing. Grandma Ruth rose slowly. I suspected for years, she said. But this is unforgivable, Marianne whispered. I did it for the family. Ruth shook her head. No, you did it for yourself. The words hung there, final and clean. I looked at my mother one last time. You itemized my worth in dollars. Here's my balance sheet. Truth. Paid in full. And in that silence, The room that once belonged to her finally belonged to me. The next morning, sunlight hit the kitchen counter like nothing had happened. But everything had. My phone was full of messages, some apologizing, some pretending not to have seen anything. Daniel texted, "Dinner next Sunday?" I replied, "Always." Grandma Ruth called just to say, "You did what had to be done." I said, "I know," though my voice didn't sound as sure as it should have. Rachel sent a single message. "I'm sorry." I typed, "I know," and left it at that. Marianne didn't call. She wouldn't. I made coffee and stood by the window, realizing the silence felt different now, not empty. Just mine. For the first time in years. I didn't have to brace myself for her voice. I could finally breathe without waiting for the next blow. When Marcus came over, he said, "You look lighter." I smiled. Because I stopped carrying her debt. He poured himself coffee and said, "So what now?" I answered. "Now I live my life." The house was quiet, the air still, and as I watched the city wake up outside, I knew the math finally balanced truth on one side, peace on the other. Grandma Ruth visited the following week. She handed me an envelope and said, "Your grandfather and I saved this for you. Your mother never gave it to you." Inside was a check and a letter in his handwriting that read, "For Olivia, so you'll never doubt your own worth." I said, "He always saw me." "Didn't he?" She smiled. "He saw what your mother couldn't." That night, Daniel came over for dinner. He looked tired but peaceful. "I'm starting over," he said. "A smaller house. A quieter life." I nodded. "You deserve that." He reached across the table. "So do you. You were brave." "Olivia," I said softly. "I just stopped apologizing for existing." He smiled. And for the first time, it reached his eyes. After he left, Marcus asked, "Do you think you'll ever forgive her?" I said, "Maybe forgiveness isn't the point. Maybe peace is," he said. "Then I think you've already found it." The window was open, the night air clean. For once, there was no noise from the past waiting to interrupt. I looked at the faint city lights outside and whispered to myself, "Debt settled. Interest closed. Balance mine. If this story stayed with you, thank you for listening all the way through. Share it with someone who's learning how to stand up for themselves, even when it hurts. Leave a comment if you've ever had to choose truth over peace. And if you'd like more stories like this, subscribe.